So today's video took me an entire week to make because I had no idea how hard it would be to create my own custom One Piece table for gameplay videos and live streams. But before I go into the story, let's check out the table and see what you think. So here's a quick glimpse of what I ended up building, but why did I even want to do it in the first place? Now this started about 5 months ago when I was watching the official One Piece channel. If you look at their playmats, they've got all the different card zones, it's really clean, and it's very friendly for new players. I figured that if I were going to make gameplay videos, I should make something just like this. So I started out designing my own custom play surface, which I could have just bought a mat off of Etsy. That would have been simple, but where's the fun in it, right? And I also wanted something that was kind of permanent, so I decided I'd use vinyl to make it. So I bust out the design software, I'm putting in shapes, I'm measuring cards, I'm measuring the YouTube video, I'm doing everything I need to. And finally, I end up with this layout. So this is what the design's gonna look like. We've got all the different card zones, we got the wording in, the Don symbol, everything. And I think it's looking pretty good. But I realized the design wasn't over, because I didn't want a plain white background for this. No, I needed something cool. I needed something like the map background on One Piece cards. So I tried to get the best image I could, and I wound up with this from their website. Now, it's not a very high quality, so what I have to do, I had to trace it out by hand, and I made my own custom one with a little bit of squiggles. So here's the finished background, and I'm going to show you the whole design put together, but first, I want to check out what this could have looked like if we used One Piece's design. So that's what it looks like. But with my design, which was tracing over and squiggling, I think looks a lot better. Honestly, this looks super cool, and I think we're ready to print. You see, I thought everything was fine, so I set up the machine, I set up the software, and I hit go. It's working! It's working! And it looks beautiful. It's printing. It's gorgeous. Amazing. But only one problem. If you touch it, the ink smears, and even hours later, it keeps smearing. But thankfully, I had the idea that I could try tracing this with Sharpie. And what I found out was the Sharpie didn't smear. So I'm just writing on the vinyl, quickly drying it off, and look what happens. Absolutely nothing. But hold on. Why would I trace this? I've got a 3D printer. I can print an attachment to fit inside the machine. So I did that. But the first time I messed up, so I had to print a second one. Now before testing the Sharpie though, I found two more problems. The first was this 31-inch vinyl sheet was hard to actually align on the table. I ended up doing this by myself. Maybe if I had a second person it wouldn't have been so bad. But with all the creases, I figured we're scrapping this idea. Also, when I tried to remove the backing from the mat, it just ripped off. This is supposedly light grip. So instead I figured we should break this down into 9 tiles that are hopefully easier to arrange. I can use my small mat that doesn't rip the sheets, and then we can also test out the new Sharpie. Okay, so it looks like the Sharpie's working, and in fact, it looks way better than the pen did. I'm kind of glad we had this issue. Now after all the drawing and the cut, the sheet looks like this, and I'm going to use what's called transfer tape to actually transfer the vinyl onto the table. The only issue is, this did not work well. This is not going well. So I end up having to basically just scrap this sheet and start again. All right, nice. Well, that was a failure. I'm gonna go ahead and try this again, and this time we're not using transfer tape. So I tried placing the next tile by hand, and it was okay, but I decided to scrap it, and then also I drew in these lines to help align everything together. And I went back to using transfer tape. And this time, things finally started to work. First corner's done. It's not as bad as I thought it'd be. Now I decided to actually place the second tile by hand, even though the transfer tape worked well, but I don't want to get the transfer tape on the first tile again. That could really mess things up. And also, I'm just getting better as I place these things over and over again. So finally, we're getting the hang of this. Now the second tile went well. I placed the third, that does too. But before I get ahead of myself, we cut the card zones, which you can't really see that happening. And it's time to place one on to see if that works. So I put down the leader zone. It seemed to work, and then I put in the lettering, and it looks really good. So I did want to test this out, and I got the lettering in here, and I think it looks okay. And it was a little bit tedious putting the letters in, but maybe I'll figure out a better way. So I decided to proceed with putting in all the other tiles, and everything worked out pretty well. I think I did have to reprint a couple just because I had some slight issues. The biggest thing was aligning some of the farther away ones together, but in the end, it worked out. And now that we've got the tiles done, it feels like the worst is over, but it's not. Because now we've got to do all the different card zones and all that lettering, which the card zones were one thing. Placing them down did take me a while. I did almost mess up, and unfortunately I ran out of this gray material just about, so if I messed up too many times, I'd have to delay this project another couple days while I waited for some to arrive. But I made it work out, and then I had to do the lettering. And the lettering, that was like the most tedious part about this. The letters took so long. I ended up placing them all in individually just about. I tried using some transfer tape, I think, at one point in time. But doing this by hand with the help of some tweezers ended up being the best solution, and I kept putting in the letters one after another. And eventually, I was done. So it's midnight, and I just got done with everything except for the laminating layer, and this thing is looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and check it out. Oh yeah, let's go. That's so cool. Looks so good on camera. I mean, it looks good in person too. But besides my thought to just go to bed, call it a night, I was already exhausted. I could do the laminating layer in the morning. I figured I had to get it done. This has seriously taken so long. I'm gonna go ahead and finish it off with the laminating layer, which the only issue is if I mess up there, we're screwed. Like, we have to redo the whole thing. So let's not mess up, and let's see how this goes. So I grabbed the lamination roll and went on with the first sheet. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. So I decided to go with the second sheet, and that's where we had the problem. Oh shoot, we screwed up. I mean, I was able to fix this lettering, but then I ended up getting creases in the paper, and that's a big issue. This is hard. This is incredibly hard and frustrating. Now, in hindsight, I should have had a second person help me with this. I think it would have been a lot easier, or I could have done a plastic sheet that doesn't have any adhesive on the back. That way, when I set it down and tape it to the surface of the table, I don't damage the vinyl. But what's done is done, so it's time to go with the third sheet and finish it off. And honestly, this sheet ended up going a lot better, but I still had some creases. And at this point in time, I didn't know there was anything I could do about the creases. I was pretty disappointed. Like, I'd had this beautiful project that I just screwed up. What am I gonna do? So I tried to cope with it, and I figured I'd test it out. So all in all, I don't think this looks that bad, but I gotta know if it feels bad. So let's try this out with some cards. It's not terrible. If I put something down, trash, characters, my life. Okay, I think it actually is gonna work. So even with those creases, even with the problem is you're gonna scrape a little bit. But before I went to bed, I researched my problem and found a glimmer of hope. Potentially, I could use an iron to solve all these issues. So the next day, out comes the iron, and out comes some of these wrinkles. Now, you don't just put a hot iron directly on the sheet itself. You've got to have parchment paper in between. But basically, you heat up the spot, move the iron over it, and hopefully shrink or even fully remove some of these creases. And in the end, it really helped. Oh yeah, it worked. So here's the finished table that we've made after overcoming all these problems, all these issues. It's got the reduced creases on it. And yeah, there's a lot of bubbles on here, but I can take care of those. Like, I do have a method. It just takes a while. I think in the future I might add some card trays. That way you guys can see the cards more easily on stream or in videos. But in the end, I think we've got something pretty cool. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And until next time, adios.